you all found that one interesting. Now we carry back on along London's longest street. This old building here, Mills and Knight, Nelson Dock. But you remember Canada Wharf, you'll see just how big Canada Wharf is, because that's it, back of it there, it backs right onto the river. It's much bigger than it looks from Rotherhithe Street here. This now forms part of a hotel. There are a couple of hotels along Rotherhithe Street you can stay in. That we shall cross over as we're coming up to our next piece of history. There's a little park over there. And here it is, Nelson House. Now, just pause you a sec while I get my notes out. There we are, at the front of it now. Nelson House, built in 1740 and didn't become known as Nelson House until after the Battle of Trafalgar in honour of Admiral Horatio Nelson. In the late 18th to early 19th century, the house was owned by a shipbuilder, John Randall, who is believed to have killed himself by jumping from an upper window in 1803 after losing all his money. Oh yeah, that's Nelson House, named for, of course, Admiral Horatio Nelson. And we shall go along this way and I shall take you to Nelson Dock, named for the exact same reason. It's interesting, looking back the way we've come from. Here we are, Nelson Dock. These great iron plates hold everything back. And we shall go up these stairs. And it's shaped like a boat. Sorry. There's a little birdhouse in the middle for the river birds. And there is Canada Wharf in its entirety. As I said, it looks quite small from the street, but from the riverfront it's much bigger. Canada Wharf. We shall go around this way, which will A, get us out of the sunshine for a minute to allow some better photography, you get the glare otherwise, and B, we shall go down these stairs and back onto London's longest street. You see what I mean? We've got the great big iron plates that hold everything in there. That was done quite some time ago. There's that little park over there. Now what we have to remember is Rotherhithe Street at both ends lost great swathes of itself after the war, particularly after the war. Rotherhithe Street was originally much longer, so when it lost big swathes of itself, they had to renumber it. Come from. And we're coming up to the next bit of history and something from more recent times on the left. What's on the left is, or was, Durand's Wharf. Would have been another wharf where goods would have been offloaded. But its interesting structure of more recent times is this. This is a vent shaft for the Jubilee line. That's certainly very secured. How dare they? Where now are tourists and seagulls, and a modern day ventilation shaft would once have been a busy hive of docking industry. And this place gets pretty busy in the day, so it's still well used. off we go back out onto Rotherhithe Street. I'll just point you this way a minute. And here is more of Durand's Wharf. We basically get the same river views as we got over there at the ventilation shaft, just more of the parkland extended really. We'll be coming past a farm in a minute. Which will get us to, or get us past and to the end of the longest street, which will be coming to the end of it soon. And at the end of the street there's a nice little location for us to cover. Surrey Docks Farm. Surrey Docks Farm. Engaging, educating the community in Rotherhithe since 1975. So, founded in Greenland Dock 1975, moved in 1986. Now, Trinity Hall and the little church that's next to it, that's our endpoint location really, that I'll end this series off with. Then we'll go all the way back via the map to the Brunel Museum and cross over the river. But this and the, well, not the inside of it because it's a children's nursery, but the story of it and the church will get a separate coverage of themselves. Right where I'm standing here is where number 242 Rotherhithe Street used to be. Bear that number in mind for the end of our tour. Our street was originally longer, as I say. And we have now reached the end of it. So, I hope you all enjoyed the tour so far. There'll be some historical images, then you'll rejoin me for the church and that. And for our historical look back in this last phase of walking London's longest street, I start us off with this lovely old drawing from the mid-19th century. I love this one because it's full of life and really gives an aspect as to what the area was like. In the distance you can see a ship's masts with rigging. Just below that you can see two young girls making their way up the street. To the left of our image, walking past what looks to be a pub, once again with clapboarding on, is a man in his working clothes with a sack over his back. And right in the foreground you can see a lumbering goods cart making its way up the street, pulled by a horse. And just past the Blacksmiths Arms, you'll remember we passed Mills and Knight Limited, right by Nelson Dock. Bear the Mills and Knight name in mind. And Nelson House, named in honour of the great Horatio Nelson, like the dock itself, with a great history to it and a little bit of a sad history to it as well, if the story is to be believed, about the man that destroyed himself. And I use that terminology because I received a warning about using the official term for people that, and I hate using this term, that unalive themselves. I've been advised to use the term unalived or suicide, which I refuse to do because the English language has already been adulterated quite enough, thank you. So for anyone that did sadly do that to themselves, from now on I'll be using the term destroyed themselves. And the house is beautifully done up and incorporated into the modern world. But here we see it in the early to mid 20th century, looking a little bit sad for itself, with its upper windows smashed but still very much there and present. And this photo from the 1970s, I told you to bear the name Mills and Knight in mind, and you can see right at the top, Mills and Knight Limited. Dock owners, ship repairs and engineers, etc. Nelson Dock, established in 1767, that company was, so another nod to the past and another cracking bit of history there. And this is Nelson Dock, but from the riverfront side, and as you can see, once again, Mills and Knight ship repairs, features large and strong. And as we got towards the end of the street, where I'm pointing out here, you'll remember in the very start of our tour, I mentioned number 242 Rotherhithe Street and a lady named Margaret, or known locally, so my research tells me, as Nanny Wenlock. Well, this is where her establishment would have been, very much a modern day incarnation with the housing that's there now. But here is the lady herself and her establishment, number 242 Rotherhithe Street. This late 19th to early 20th century image, and for your delight and delectation, it's been cleared up and sharpened, and it gives a good aspect to Margaret, or Nanny Wenlock as she was known. And just above her head you can see ginger beer, number 242, and right next to her establishment, or pub shall we call it, is a tea and coffee establishment. A nice little nod to the past with this one, and good to be able to put, once again, which you can't always do, put a name to a face. And here we get an aspect of the backside of number 242 Rotherhithe Street, and other buildings showing clapboard houses and a swing, which is right over to the extreme right in our image. The buildings no longer exist, and the Rotherhithe Street area has been redeveloped and renumbered. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our walk down London's longest street. But we're not quite done yet, because as I pointed over to a location we'll be covering in the next video, which is Trinity Church, we'll be visiting that one next. So if that's your kind of thing, pop along and see the video when it hits the page. Thanks for watching all, and I'll catch you all on that one.